Hi, this is your host Sapnil Bhartiya and welcome to another episode TFR Let's Talk. And today we have with us Stas Neyman, Director of Product Marketing at Akamai. Stas, great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure to host you. And today we are going to talk about native connector for API traffic analysis. But before we deep dive into, of course, this topic and also the announcement that you folks made recently, I would love to know a bit about your own background. Talk about your story and what brought you folks to Akamai.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I joined Akamai recently as part of the No Name security acquisition. So at No Name, I led the product marketing function. And now that No Name is part of the Akamai family, I'll continue to oversee product marketing for the API security product line. Prior to No Name, I held various PMM leadership roles at CyberArk, AWS, and HP.
Now, since as you mentioned that you oversee the API security portfolio at Akamai, can you quickly talk about the whole API security market? Because we kind of live in an API-driven world. So talk about API security and how different is it from the regular security?
Yeah, again, great question. So, APIs, just so we know, are critical for driving business innovation and growth in enterprises today. Like organizations increasingly rely on APIs to power their applications and services. And, as a result, they become primary targets for malicious actors. If you think about it, a single compromised API can result in major consequences like a data breach, a service disruption, and reputational damage. A single API can give you millions of records in a matter of seconds, as opposed to say, more traditional attacks where, you have to, infiltrate organization, maybe take over an identity, maybe, escalate your privileges or move laterally until you can get their access to data. Here, it's almost instant. Another thing to consider is that organizations now must consider API security to comply with various regulatory and legal requirements. So, it's definitely a primary attack vector, and there are a lot of regulatory pressures on companies to comply.
And when it comes to API security, and if you look at the traditional security, the good thing is that the whole kind of culture or the approach towards security has changed. Unlike the early days, security is no longer an afterthought, is no longer someone else's problem. Of course, we talk about persona like DevSecOps. How have you seen the whole evolution of API security? Are you happy with the progress that has been made? Because you also come from No Name, or you're like, no, a lot of work has to be done, or you're like, no, we are in the right trajectory, right direction. All we need to do is just keep the customers, updated with the solutions.
The types of conversations we have, the tone has shifted from what is it to, when, how do I implement it and how soon do I need it and what, which APIs I need to focus first. So I think there's a lot less education that needs to be done to convince people that APIs are important and they're everywhere and they power everything that you do. Every single experience, every single application, every single service relies on it. So I think that's well understood in the market. Now the question becomes, all right, well, how do I prioritize it? And also who pays for it, right? Because API security is tricky. You have a lot of different teams that touch it. You have, security folks. You have DevOps, as you mentioned. You have developers who actually fix the problems, and they all look for slightly different things, right? Security teams, might want to see, your dashboards and want to know, hey, are we hitting all WASP top 10 API security risk? Are we protected? While developers want to make sure that the APIs are still performant, right? And they have get the right data and don't overshare. So a lot of different people touch it, but everybody understands the importance, which is great.
Excellent, thank you. Now let's talk about API security solutions at Akamai. Talk a bit about the product portfolio and how does API security fit into. Also, if you look at Akamai, you folks, security has been one of the strongholds, of course, CD and everything else. So talking to Akamai about security is like a perfect, case there. So talk about how does API security fit into all the services and product that Akamai offers?
Yeah, so definitely, Akamai doubled down on API security with the purchase or acquisition of No Name, and the reason for that is the No Name solution was a top or still is a top, leading API security a solution on the market. It has the most number of integrations, which are super important, and really believes in this vendor neutral approach. So I want to kind of double click on it a little bit because no name and API security, Akamai API security now allows companies to integrate with more than 40 traffic sources. So that includes anything that you might have: cloud environments, API gateways, web application firewalls, other CDNs, anything. So organizations have the flexibility to continue using their preferred technologies and tool while still benefiting from these, top of the market, best advanced API security capabilities, in addition to all other security capabilities that Akamai platform provides. So it's a natural integration. It becomes part of the platform and will just provide a lot of benefits to the customers to have end-to-end application and API security from a single vendor.
Now let's also talk about how Akamai integrates different offering. Let's just talk about the new native connector you folks announced between Akamai API security and Akamai's Connected Cloud. Talk a bit about it, and if you can also get into the weeds of how it works.
We just announced it's brand new, hot off the press, right? So it's an integration between the API security and the Connected Cloud, which is our massively distributed edge and cloud platform. So this integration essentially simplifies and accelerates the discovery and protection of APIs by enabling customers to send a copy of their Akamai traffic directly to API security for analysis and to rapidly block attacks. So to put it simply, the connector is like a giant network tap, for the Akamai CDN. And you can enable it in a few clicks, completely out of band, and provides customers with an easy and effective way to gain visibility into their API traffic without impacting performance. And really, it works quite similarly to other integrations we offer. It just has a few extra benefits, which I can talk about if you want.
Yeah, I would love to talk about them as well. Please go ahead.
So there's three major benefits that we can talk about. So first is the deployment, right? It's extremely simple. So getting your API traffic to API security for analysis takes just a few clicks. And unlike other integrations, there are no projects to manage. There are no teams to coordinate. There's no infrastructure to provision or manage. There's no stakeholders to consult. It's super easy and efficient. Another benefit: cost, which is zero. So you do not have to worry about data transfer costs or maintenance or network costs or really any other costs. This integration is built and managed by Akamai, so it will never be down and will never be outdated. And finally, I touched on this a little bit, but the connector has the ability to rapidly respond to attacks by blocking IP addresses directly at Akamai Edge. So it's lightning fast, super easy to set up as well, and works like a charm. You get full visibility, and once you know that there's an attack, block it.
And if I'm not wrong, Akamai already offers, as we also touched upon, some kind of integration already. So how different is this from what's already available, and why was this integration needed?
Well, the integration, we wanted to. Akamai sees a lot of the traffic, right? There's so much of the internet traffic flows through Akamai. So there's wealth of information there. So we wanted to give customers an ability to tap into it and start, analyzing it, understanding the posture. Are there any misconfigurations on their APIs? Are there, any issues, that snuck into the production environment? So customers get instant visibility. They can see the posture. They can understand what is a typical behavior for their APIs looks like. And when we see something malicious, we can immediately surface it to the customer and block it. And in addition, which is a big differentiator, is the testing capability. So Akamai API security includes native testing that allows you to run a series 200 plus tests on your APIs while they're still being developed. And what that does is that it prevents you from introducing vulnerabilities into the production environment. So developers love it. They get to make sure that they ship good code. Security teams love it. There's more predictability when your APIs are working as intended. Because if you introduce an issue in production and you develop, you discover it, what needs to happen? You have to stop the business process. You have to pull the API back. You have to fix it, test it, coordinate, all this effort between development, DevOps teams. It's a big pain. So we, eliminate that with our solution.
You talked about cost, and you also talk about developers and security teams. Talk a bit about how does this integration bridge the gap between developers and security team, because the fact is the developers don't want to talk to security teams because they slow them down, they might even block things. So how does this ease working between these two teams? And also you mentioned cost. How does it impact the cost, because folks are becoming very sensitive when it comes to cloud cost?
Yeah, so it's a kind of a two-part question. I'll address it one part at a time. So in terms of the working relationship between the security and development teams. So with our solution, once you have this full visibility, because you cannot protect what you don't see, right? So now that you have full visibility into all the APIs in your environment, whether they are flowing through Akamai CDN or your API gateway, or just out there, in your cloud environment, you get full visibility into every API and the posture. Then you can use this information to cut through the noise and find out the most vulnerable APIs, the ones that present the most risk. Which you can then send to your developers to work. So developers don't just, are inundated with, security requests. They work on the highest priority, the APIs. If this API gets compromised, this is the biggest blast radius, biggest impact, highest probability that something will go wrong. And not only that, because our solution is really, developer friendly, we provide you all the information that you might need. What went wrong? Here's a traffic sample before, this is after, this is how to replicate this issue and what exactly you need to do to fix it. We also integrate with all the tools that your developers love, like let's say, Jira or Slack or whatnot. So you can utilize all the entire environment to make sure that your developers are collaborating, they're working on stuff, and all the updates are visible within both the Akamai API security and whatever other systems they use for, let's say, their CI/CD pipeline. Now, in terms of the cost, I will reemphasize that this particular integration is 100% integrated within our platform. So there's no cost at all for you to consider. It's free. it's built in, right? So once you set it up, it's just flowing. It takes the copy of the traffic. It does all the analysis, and there's nothing for any other team to consider, other than the fact that they're really happy that they have Akamai API security.
And is this connector already available? How folks can access and use it?
Yes, it is generally available. It's already being used at scale by more than 100 customers. I am pretty sure it generates over 500 billion monthly requests. So it's definitely built for Akamai scale, and it's out there. Customers seem to be very happy.
Stas, thank you so much for taking time out today and not only talk about your own journey, but also the whole API security landscape and the work that Akamai is doing in this space. Thanks a lot for those insights, and I would love to have you back on the show. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Have a great day.